Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Someone on our Twitter feed said, we need answers. This is a very dramatic week. I know that people out there are just dying for information that only Michael Russo can provide, so let me get right to it. What's the deal with the foot massager?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that giant contraption over there that's probably about 50 pounds.
Taking up half of your living room, yes. What the hell is that?
Well, it was one of those spur-of-the-moment online purchases that I bought before the last road trip to Vancouver and Edmonton. And it's funny, when I got back from that trip, I looked at the front door, and there's this gigantic package out there. I'm like, I don't what the heck is that? I don't remember buying anything. And then I opened that up, and I'm like, oh, yeah. So I found it on Facebook. Oprah Winfrey was doing an endorsement for it, and I decided to hit the video, and she was like just going crazy about how great this thing was. I'm like, all right, I'll buy it. So I bought it, and yeah, well, one thing, They said that, like, I actually emailed before I bought it. I said, hey, this is going to shock people because I'm not tall, but I have size 13 feet. I said, is this going to...
Brandon, sounds like he's bragging.
Yeah. So is this going to fit somebody with 13? And the guy writes me back from the company and says, yeah, up to size 13. All right. Let me just tell you, you got to jam your feet in there with size 13. But it is unbelievable, except that I think I broke 2 toes.
Of course you did.
I'm not kidding. I think 2 of my toes are broken.
That's not exactly a great product endorsement.
And
it's
this
great,
happened,
except for the broken toes.
And this happened 2 days ago, and I still used it again today.
Of course you did. I think we're doing the show from Michael Russo's palatial estate, and I think one of the last times I was here, you broke a glass and cut yourself while you're here. I mean... Maybe we should baby-proof this house.
I know. What do you think of all the art?
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's very pretty. And you know what? It's something I think my wife would like. It just...
it's awesome.
Shots of Minneapolis, that's kind of our jam.
Yep. Josh Driver Photography is the one that did it. And they're unbelievable. They're pictures of the North Shore and Minneapolis, and I bought a bunch on his website. And then I probably shouldn't say this because then people are going to expect him to do the same. He actually came over and hung them all.
That was just because he wanted to have his feet massaged.
So here's the best part. You see all the little blotches of discolored paint?
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up.
So I tried to touch up the walls that I had, like, when my nephews were here, and they just, like, fingerprinted everything. And nobody told me that you could actually just buy a white or, like, magic eraser or something. But so I decided to pull the paint out of the mechanical room. And as you could see, I've, like, ruined every wall in my house. I mean, every wall. So just coincidentally, about a week ago, I was on with the construction manager of the property of this development here, named Jordan. And I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm like asking him a bunch of questions about like winterizing the home and all this stuff. Like, hey, by the way, you have any tips on touching up paint? And he goes, I've like ruined every wall. He goes, well, did you use the right paint? I'm like, He goes, there's several different buckets of paint back there.
Yeah, don't use the black paint on the white walls,
and he goes,
Michael.
He goes, what size was the bucket that you used? I'm like, I don't know, just a small tin can. He goes, yeah, you used the wrong paint.
Of course
the paint for the walls is in a giant bucket, and you probably used the trim of the house paint. So now I got to repaint all these walls.
Does Oprah recommend any, like, I'm picturing like a hospital bed that allows you to elevate your broken toes?
I don't know. Probably.
All right, let's get to hockey. Yeah. This is the Russo Suhan show, the Russo Hockey Show, really. This is our hockey show on TalkNorth.com. Please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. That's the best way to see the feeds for all the new shows we're putting out, and of course see the feed for this show when we put it out immediately. Check out the new website at TalkNorth.com. We have a bunch of new outdoor shows coming out through Ron Scherer Productions and the Minnesota Bound and the Flush and the Reverend Hunter, all that kind of stuff. Just subscribe. Subscribe at your favorite podcast app. It's the easiest way. You'll get all the shows showing up. That's what I do. And thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. We have live shows coming up March 11th and 25th, 7 p.m. at Tin Shed, tinshedmn.com. You can always go to tinshedmn.com to find out the dates of our upcoming shows, to see pictures of Michael Russo that are very exciting. tinshedmn.com. That's Tin Shed in Savage. Easy to get to, great place to hang out, great place to watch sports. Tell you more about them in a little while. All right, let's get to it. Nothing happened on trade deadline day, and yet it feels like there were 8 big stories, whether it was Parise or Koivu or Guerin not trading a defenseman. So you just take me through what happened and your perspective on all of it.
I mean, from what I could tell, actually, Koivu has a lot to do with Parise because the Islanders were one of the teams, coincidentally, that was after Mikko Koivu. So here's what I mean. Just putting the tea leaves together and connecting some dots and talking to some people is that Zach Parise and Mikko Koivu were approached about their no move clauses. There were multiple teams that at least showed interest in Mikko Koivu. Mikko Koivu. And then there was one team that essentially Billy was willing to work with Zach, and if it could happen, Zach would be moved there, and if it couldn't happen to that team, Zach wants to stay. So what are the chances? But I mean, again, just doing the timeline in my head and how this all fell apart is Derek Brassard breaks his jaw, and next thing you know, the Islanders need a center. So they all of a sudden put their all their eggs in the center train, and they went after Mikko. Mikko wouldn't waive his no move. Then on the day of the trade deadline, they go and trade Peugeot. In that deal, they give up a first-round pick. My guess is that to take Zach's contract and for the Wild to take Andrew Ladd's contract, that first was coming to Minnesota. So when all of a sudden Lou Lamoriello traded for a center involving a first, now the Wild don't have the asset that they eventually wanted. Now, my guess is that Kiefer Bellows was in this because Kiefer Bellows, I'm told, was going to be the asset coming back to the Wild in the Mikko Koivu deal. And I think then what happened, though, is now a team that is suddenly getting close to the cap, that have a bunch of guys hurt, that all of a sudden are coming back in their lineup. Clutterbuck just returned. Suzuki's coming to return. My guess is that they went to the Wild when the Wild thought it was a done deal, that they were about to go trade Parise there, and said, we want you to retain more money at Parise. So now all of a sudden that first isn't available, and the Wild had to take more money at Parise, and they were going to have to bring in Ladd, and if they wanted to buy out Ladd this summer, they were going to have to pay him 3 straight years of $3 million signing bonuses as well. You were only buying out $3 million of his base salary, so it wasn't even a cost savings from a buyout. And I just think that when they started crunching everything, because from what I hear, it was the Wild that backed out of it. So this wasn't falling apart because it became public and the Islanders backed out. What fell apart is, I'm guessing, is that one of the assets the Wild thought they were getting in the Parise deal was traded for Peugeot, again because of the Brassard injury, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we also want you to retain more money. And I just think when Guerin started crunching everything, he's just like, I'm not comfortable with this, because I'm telling you, I have reason to believe from some timestamps on my phone is that 51 minutes before the trade deadline, the Parise deal was still going to go through because of just, again, some timestamps on my phone. And then something fell apart in the last hour. And so, I fall apart might be the wrong word. I just think that the Wild just looked at this and just said, this just doesn't make sense. And that's Guerin's prerogative. Frankly, I look at it and I also don't know if it made sense just from the Ladd point of view as well. So, but where this became such a shame is this did become public. I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that as quickly I had my story up, that I sensed this was coming. I mean, I wrote the story that Parise was traded on the flight back from Edmonton the other day because I just was convinced something could happen. And if you also look, after TSN wrote it, or reported this on Twitter and on their television newscast, and then Elliot Friedman, also from Sportsnet, also confirmed it as well. I went. I mean, it was 20 or 30 uncomfortable minutes where I didn't publish because I even tweeted somebody, I'll have a story up as soon as it's official. But then what happened is I started doing digging, and when I got confirmation with 100% certainty that Ladd and Parise waived their no move, that's when we decided at The Athletic that we're going to go publish my story, only change the verbiage, which is also what took time, because originally I had that he was traded, then I had to change basically everything throughout the story, change tenses, because it wasn't done, that it was in the final stages, and blah, blah, blah. So it fell through. Unfortunately, it got out. It put Zach in an uncomfortable position with the fans, but I can tell you that Zach... This is not like a situation where he's just like, I want out of here. This is a situation where he was working with the GM that approached him. This was something that was potentially going to happen last summer. And so it continued all year with at least Lou and Bill Guerin talking. And then Bill went to Zach and said, hey, is this something that you would be interested in? And, I think Billy in these conversations, it's pretty clear. I think he wants to get younger. I think that, as all Wild fans also have said for years, is that they're worried that they're just the $16 million almost in cap hit money that's given to Suter and Parise inhibits this organization from doing other things, and that's fair. So I think that Billy was trying to find out a way to get younger, clear a roster spot, and clear some cap space up. Even if you take Ladd up, at least you're saving money on the final couple years of Parise's cap hit. So, unfortunately it got out, and then, obviously I think Zach felt like he had to do some damage control yesterday where he met with the media. It's unfortunate. I'm sad that I've sort of played a role in that as well. But, once it's out there on TSN and Sportsnet, I can't just sit idly by the side and pretend this isn't going on, when I knew all along this was going on. And the only reason why I didn't report anything sooner is because it was so kept secret. I mean, everybody was denying it, but I had so many sources around the league that's like, I'm telling you, this is going on. I mean, I can't convey to you how many times it was denied to me internally by the team. And a lot of that is because this team, they're trying to protect the player. They're trying to make sure that Lou Lamoriello, who's renowned for this stuff going public and then backing out, that didn't implode it. So I get why I was being told nothing, but but from a reporter intuition standpoint, sometimes you got to follow your sources. And trust them, and that's why I wrote the story the other day, because I had nothing to do on the flight back from Edmonton, but two, it was like it was just like something was going on. There was just so many things that it was so obvious, so that's why.
I have a follow-up question on Parise. We do want to thank Grey Duck Vodka, one of our newest sponsors, one of our biggest sponsors. Really good tasting, sweet tasting, Minnesota-made vodka.
When we asked you to get the duck out, wow, did you respond? Grey Duck Vodka is now in over 1,500 locations and expanding every day. This is Chad Greenway, and I just want to say thank you for making Grey Duck Minnesota's vodka. With the wonderful ingredients from Minnesota farmers, Grey Duck is gluten-free and has won 3 gold medals for taste. For all upcoming events and a list of locations carrying Grey Duck, head to greyduckspirits.com.
Please drink responsibly. Grey Duck Spirits, LLC, Lakeville, Minnesota.
Get the duck out.
I got one right over there.
Awesome.
Big bottle of Grey Duck.
It's good stuff.
Yep.
And I find the vodka doesn't give me a headache the way some other liquors do. So, or maybe it's just the Grey Duck is high quality. Maybe that's the deal. Anyway, so do you think this continues to be a joint venture by Parise and Guerin to move him this summer, or do you think this is it?
I think it could be revisited. I do. I don't think it's it. Again, if it's true that Lou Lamoriello really wants Zach Parise, that probably, Lou when he wants something, he usually goes and gets it. And this is somebody also, he's turning 78, he wants to win a cup. And if he feels Zach can help him get there with all the other pieces that they have on the Islanders, I think that's something that he would revisit this summer. This was just an odd situation. Again, and I don't know this to be fact, but just, connecting all the dots, what changed? Well, all of a sudden they needed a center. That was imperative. And I think what it did is it put the Parise thing on the back burner. Once he got his center, to get that center, he was forced into giving up that pick. My guess is that asset might have been part of this deal.
what do you think is going through Parise's mind? I mean,
Well, I'm sure it's not easy.
I guess my question is, is his motivation to go someplace he thinks he can win a cup?
Well, I think his motivation is to win a cup, whether that's here or in a specific scenario. And I think, look, he's comfortable here. He lives here. His mom's here. His kids are growing. He wants them to grow up here. But the Islanders, I think, are intriguing to him just because he has such an immense respect for Lou Lamoriello, for that system, and Barry Trotz, and probably because there's some in his heart of hearts, it's where his dad used to play. So this is not somebody that's, I don't think Zach Parise's waving is no move to go anywhere. I think this was just an interesting scenario that he discussed with his family, and once Billy came to him. So. But as Zach has said a gazillion times, and I think we see it when we watch him on the ice. This guy works his butt off. He wants to win a cup. This career is finite of his. He's 35. His clock is ticking. He has said it, and so I think from our standpoint, I don't want to put words in Zach's mouth, but from our standpoints, all of us that watch the Wild, I think we all can agree that this team is not Stanley Cup contender material right now, and I'm sure Zach sees that, and he's like, if the Islanders are closer, if I'm going to play for a guy that I know and that I know is incredibly motivated to win a cup just based on his age alone, I think it was something he's willing to entertain.
All right, let's get into the Koivu segment of this. Koivu obviously decided he didn't want to go anyplace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, it's the player's choice, and they earn the right, through negotiations, through the course of their career, they earn the right to make that decision. I almost wish, though, that Koivu wanted to go someplace else and try to win.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. I mean, that's fair. But it's his life. It's his.
Yeah.
It's his. There's something special about maybe being the only guy in Wild history that's going to start and end his career and play this many games here. And I think that he just had trouble envisioning himself go chase a cup and leave his kids for an indefinite amount of time as well. So this was, I think, a very personal decision for Mikko. Doesn't mean, I mean, some of the reaction on Twitter and comments, it just shows he never wants to win. I mean,
Oh, no.
it's like unless you're in somebody's shoes, you don't know what they're going through. And I think that he just looked at this and said, you know what, to go play 5-6 weeks and not be emotionally invested into that team. And it's a roll of the dice anyway. Nobody here can tell me right now who's going to win the Stanley Cup. I think it's just at the end of the day, he just decided that it wasn't worth uprooting himself for and being uncomfortable and all that stuff. So I don't know who the teams were. I mean, maybe he looked at the Islanders too as being one that was in front of him and said, I just don't think that's a sure thing. It's not easy playing for the Islanders either. I mean, you are practicing on Long Island. Your game days are usually, unless it's at Nassau Coliseum, your game days are usually in Brooklyn. I think it just would have been an ordeal that he wasn't entertained. Now, I don't know if any others, like maybe if Boston or Tampa or somebody wanted him, maybe that was something that would be different. But I do know there were other teams that wanted him. I heard Florida inquired. I heard Arizona inquired. So I just think that this was something he didn't want to do.
Thanks to Twill and the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill _Edina on Instagram. I'm wearing a shirt. I think it's a Faraday shirt that I got from Twill right now. Very comfortable, perfect winter shirt.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
And with, the other thing with Mikko right now is I think what this does tell you is he's probably retiring after this year. I just don't see how the Wild give him a 1-year extension if Bill Guerin's motivation right now is to take the second oldest team in the league and make them younger and and faster. And so, at some point you gotta move on as an organization. If you don't think that you have a chance to next year win a cup, then I think that's even more of a reason probably not to bring him back. So, my guess is that if he right now wasn't willing to go wear another uniform, if the Wild are not going to re-sign him for a year, that he's probably going to say, hey, which actually could be good for the Wild here as they try to make this run for the playoffs, because what it does tell you is we are probably going to see the hardest working player on the ice every single night. And last night's game was an example of that. I mean, that line with Donato and Hartman was just outstanding all game long. I mean, you could see it early and often that they were just flying and aggressive and physical, and they got 3 goals. So it was a good night for Mikko and his line mates.
Absolutely. Now, of course, there was a lot of speculation surrounding Brodin and Dumba. Do you think anything close? There?
I know that they were in on Trocheck. Brodin would have been the price. The Wild, if they were going to give up Brodin, would have wanted a lot more. And so Trocheck winds up on Carolina. And so my guess is that really there wasn't anything else real close right now. I think that there's, this is one of those things that just usually doesn't happen right now. It usually would be a summer move. So my guess is that they've planted the seeds for potential action this summer, and that one of them could very well be traded. Because again, the expansion draft is next summer, and if you're protecting Suter and Spurgeon, and you are going the 7-forward 3 defenseman protection route, you are going to have to expose Brodin or Dumba unless you make a deal with Seattle to give them a prospect or something to get them to take somebody else. And we saw how well that went the last time it happened. So I don't think Billy wants to go there. So if you can use one of them right now to get a number 1 center this summer, or a number 2 center and more, I think that you have to do it. This team needs centers. Billy is well aware of that. Dumba is somebody that Toronto, I do think I think they want him, but they don't really have centers unless it's going to be Nylander. But if this team falls apart here, with the money that they've got invested into a lot of guys, and how difficult it's going to be to fix this team this summer, I mean, all of a sudden Nylander could be available. So I think it was very smart by Billy, if the deal he wasn't comfortable with was not on the table for Brodin or Dumba, it absolutely means he should have just stood pat there and wait, because these are the 2 that have the ability to get you what you need, where probably nobody on the team is the asset that can get you a true center.
And what's your overall impression of Guerin and how he's handled? Because, listen, all these decisions are tough decisions, whether it's Bruce, whether it's trading a young player, whether it's approaching Parise. Do you have the sense that he knows how to operate in this landscape?
I do. I will say I was surprised by that nothing happened the other day, because it was a team on the fringe of the playoffs that didn't buy or sell. On a day when the prices were unbelievable around the league, I mean, there were assets flying around like we've never seen them, really, that I remember in the trade deadline. I mean, the prices were high, in part maybe because Billy really set a standard with the Zucker trade and getting a player in Alex Galchenyuk that looks like he could still play in this league. Which is funny because last podcast I probably said that this guy will be in the KHL next year, which is just typical of every Russo Suhan show.
Yes, we regret everything we say.
Yeah,
I
contradict myself on every single thing I say from show to show. But I think a lot of that is because this team changes so dramatically week to week. I mean, it is unbelievable. But he also got a first-round pick and a prospect in Callan Addison. So the prices were high. So I just was surprised that we didn't see anybody else go. But if you look at it, it's really not surprising because they got no pending free agents other than Galchenyuk. And there's not a lot of other things that right now other teams are playing off. Playoff teams want rentals usually at this time of the year, and there just wasn't a lot of things. They weren't getting a lot of calls on that Greg Patton report was just not true. And that the one thing I'll just tell you without. And I'm a little hesitant to say this because I definitely don't want to criticize colleagues of mine, because it happens to me too. But the one thing you always, as a beat writer, have to be careful of on trade deadline day and the days leading up to it are agents. The agents that are, they try to use you this time of year. And a lot of it's for players that they want to create a market for. Yep. So it's easy at 8 a.m. to say, hey, a lot of teams are calling on Greg Patterson when it's just, it's just an agent trying to drum up interest to try to get him into maybe a better situation.
Absolutely, and that happens in all sports, and that's why you have to have team sources.
Yeah.
You know, you have to
And
have
that's why I
balance.
didn't touch that one, because right when it came out, I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, they've been trying to trade Greg Pattern for 2 years. If there was a lot of teams calling on Greg Pattern,
They
he
would have
been
traded
dealt.
him.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's get to. We have a lot of Twitter questions,
And that's not. By the way, I'm not. That is not a slight to Greg Pattern. I like him as a player. I really genuinely do. But he's a right shot defenseman with another year left at a pretty, at a price where the Wild could go and change him. I mean, you can go put a younger guy there next year at a cheaper price and get more production and maybe a better play, from Belpedio and Manel, or going out and getting another right shot D. So I'm not trying to take a shot at Greg Pattern because I like him a lot, but if there were a lot of teams wanting him yesterday, I think he would have been dealt easily.
All right, let's get to some Twitter questions. We do want to thank Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com, downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway, downtown St. Paul in the Skyway, the mothership, which has all kinds of stuff, third floor Mall of America, and also there's a location in Toledo, Ohio, if you're ever in that neck of the woods.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
From Leslie on Twitter is, we've already been through this, but just to put a bow on it, is Zach Parise's career with the Wild all but over?
No, definitely not. I mean, again, he's only willing to go to another specific team that we know of right now, and still this summer, who knows if Lou revisits it? Who knows if the Wild, if I were the Wild, I would say, I wouldn't take Ladd back. I would try to come up with something else. Get an actual usable player instead of somebody that's just going to be an issue here, whether you buy him out or just a problem. So I would try to get a Johnny Boychuk or a Nick Leddy or somebody like that. Boychuk's money is pretty similar, and he'd be useful, especially if you trade a Pattern. So
Right.
Yeah.
From Johnny Kaner, Zuccarello is not playing great, and just in the first year of his deal, any signs of encouragement?
Connor,
I'm sorry,
Johnny Connor,
Sorry,
aspiring
Connor.
University of Minnesota play-by-play guy.
Sorry, Johnny.
Who comes to a lot of our podcasts, by the way.
My bad. That's my biggest weak spot is pronunciations. I screw them up all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure you have other weak spots.
No, but that's the that's the most obvious of all my weak spots. I think. Maybe not.
Is it encouraging?
Any signs of encouragement?
I think that it would help Zuccarello if this team could improve at the center position. But Johnny is absolutely right that they are having trouble finding him a spot on this team. Bruce was at the end. He just hasn't played well for a while, and he is aggravating to the coaching staff from the standpoint of just putting himself in incredible positions to shoot the puck, and he just doesn't. But that's the MO of a lot of great playmakers in this game. I mean, we saw it with Pierre-Marc Bouchard for a long time. We saw it with Mikhail Granlund. There are just players that would get such a better elation from setting up the beautiful goal than scoring it themselves. But the one that really bothered a lot of people in the Minnesota Wild coaching staff was the one in Vancouver, where twice in that game he put himself in incredible point-blank areas to shoot, and he didn't shoot. And this is a guy with an incredible shot that has been able to beat goalies one-on-one throughout his career. So I think that just bothered him. But then what does Zuccarello do in that game? He gets 2 assists and a huge shootout goal. So there's still a lot to like about this guy if you can just surround him with players that can help him mesh. And right now he's having trouble finding a spot in the lineup that suits him. They have Fiala playing the same position. I mean, if you put Zuccarello and Fiala on a line together, they're probably going to be very, very good together, but they're both playing right wing. So he's, right now he's at the mercy of playing with centers that maybe aren't the greatest in terms of talent or production, and left wings that are kind of bouncing around right now. So, Zuccarello's on a line right now with Galchenyuk and Foligno. Foligno, as we know, is not a goal scorer, and Galchenyuk is playing a position that he hasn't played in years. And so, you have Zuccarello on that side trying to create for those guys. It's not going to be easy.
From KC3 Quotes on Twitter, what of the Wild top prospects in the WHL and NCAA are expected to go pro next year?
Just real quick on the other Zuccarello thing is at the end of Bruce's tenure, too, he took him off the number one power play and put Fiala there, and that's when the power play heated up. And one big reason why Bruce did that was because he was getting awfully tired of Matt's kind of playing the perimeter, slowing things down, curling back to the blue line, and Fiala is much more of an attacker. So that's just another thing that, this is a tough contract, as Johnny said. I mean, with the no move clause and $6 million and him being 31 already, it's one that could potentially bite the Wild. I go back to 2016 and some of those ridiculous contracts that were given out by GMs. Andrew Ladd, I made a list of them the other day too. Hang on for a second. Andrew Ladd, Franz Nielsen, I'm trying to remember, Milan Lucic, Louis Eriksson, and David Backes were the five. And I give Ken Holland credit. He took the Lucic deal, and now Calgary's got to live with it, and he made a really good trade for James Neal. But look at all these guys, Okposo as well. Look at all these guys. All these teams are having to give assets away to get rid of these contracts now. I mean, Nielsen's just collecting dust in Detroit, but at some point, Louis Eriksson, they're going to have to give an asset to have somebody take him. We just saw that with Boston with David Backes. We basically saw it with Lucic in Edmonton. We're seeing it right now where they are desperately trying to get rid of Ladd in Long Island, and that was a 7-year deal at 5.5, and these were all for 31, 33, 31, 35, 34, and 35 years old at the summer of 2016. And they all their terms were, in terms of AAV, $6 million, 5.5, 6, 5.25, 6, and 6. So what does Paul Fenton do? He takes a 31-year-old and gives him $6 million a year on a 5-year deal with a no move. These contracts are going to bite you. They just always will. Even if Zuccarello was just unbelievable this year and collecting points left and right, eventually it's probably going to bite you. And so I just think GMs have to be a lot more careful, and I think that we're starting to see a little bit of learning from general managers now.
From MIK on Twitter, and you know what? I'll get to that question. The question is, who will be the captain after Koivu? We do want to thank Tony Hoagland, our friend, and our State Farm agent, handles my insurance and Michael's insurance.
Every team knows that the two-point play can be a winning move. That's why State Farm agent Tony Hoagland and his team are here to help you go for two by combining your home and auto insurance. It's a great call that saves you time and money. So go for the win and score savings by combining your home and auto. It's just another way we're here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at 763-421-4900 or online at ChamplinInsurance.com.
So the question is, who's the captain after Koivu?
If it were me, I would make probably Foligno. There are probably three candidates right now. One would be Stahl, one would be Foligno, and one would be Spurgeon. Now, Spurgeon is the one that's signed long-term. His 7-year deal kicks in next year. It's the highest AAV in Wild history. It's a little shade north of both Parise and Suter. I think a lot of people just wonder, even though he's what you want in every single player, if he's vocal enough inside the locker room. The one to me that makes the most sense is Foligno, especially if you give him maybe a 1 or 2 year extension this offseason. There was just no chance, unless a deal blew Bill Guerin out of the water, that he was trading Foligno at the deadline. And there's really no reason to. He's 28. He's still playing great. So what you do is you maybe try to extend him this summer for a couple of years, and then you say, here's the captaincy. Because he, in a lot of ways, makes that room tick. And we see it with Nick Foligno in Columbus, and we saw it with Mike Foligno when he played as well. These are captains. Something in that Foligno family. And then the other one, obviously, because he's got a pedigree of being a captain and is absolutely loved in that room, is Stahl. But he's only got 1 year left going into next season. So does that make the most sense when you're going to eventually have to change it? I think Foligno makes sense because maybe you bide time for one of the young kids to then step in and you can give them the C.
Makes sense. Ron Lawrence Rubin asks on Twitter, is Michael still injured? This is an evergreen tweet. We can ask that every week.
Yeah, that's true. I do have 2 broken toes.
Yeah, I'm sure they're, as Brandon, our resident doctor, would tell us, I'm sure they're actually broken. We're sure you're not just playing it up.
They hurt.
From Family Dining.
I think they were crushed.
I'm shocked you were able to even walk to the door to answer for us. From Family Dining.
I think I should get a wheelchair when I get to MSP today for my flight to Detroit.
I think you need a disabled vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, you're one of those hands-only vehicles, so you wouldn't want it. You know, you wouldn't want your toes are too valuable to the network.
I know.
Lloyd's of London, did you get a policy?
No.
All right, we've played this out. From Family Dining, Donato, TOI is 1050. Seems like he should be getting more based on his production. Do you agree or not?
I do, but, the one thing Dean Evison said yesterday that I do agree with is that it is a process. I've seen it for my entire career. It's a process for kids to move up. One reason why they've always had issues with these, Nino being on the fourth line, we saw it with Jordan Greenway this year, Ryan Donato, is because of Parisi and Jason Zucker and guys blocking him out. And now Foligno, because Foligno was the fourth line left wing, but now he's playing so well, they've put him on a third line checking shutdown role. So what it's meant is one of their young kids has to play left wing. And we're seeing guys play out miscast too, where Greenway's been on right wing just to find them spots. And I think that is one reason why Bill Guerin wanted to trade, or was willing to, I shouldn't say willing to trade Zach last week, was to create that spot. But it is a process. And I think it's very clear, if you read me and follow me on Twitter, how much I like Ryan Donato and think he deserves more ice time and everything. But I also see the shortcomings that a lot of these coaches do too. I will say in his own zone, he sometimes doesn't read plays well and is a little lax there. The other thing is he is pushed off the puck a lot easier, too easy, I would say. And so I think what the coaches try to do is they're putting him in a fourth line position where he is going against lesser type defenders from the blue line and forward lines of other teams. So it allows him to get the ability to score these goals where they have, on the times they have moved him up and he's playing against top checking players of other teams or the number 1 or 2 defensemen of other teams, they feel like he's easily neutralized. And so that is stuff they're seeing on tape every day. Like, this is not, like, trust me, there's nothing about Ryan Donato that would make you not like him as a coach. He is one of the, cool dudes that there is on that team, in my opinion. And so there's nothing that he would do that a coach would just, I hate that guy. Where there are certain guys in this league that our coaches hate. One has been bouncing around for the last 2 years, and it's very easily to figure that out. From Ryan's perspective, the reason why they're putting him in this position is because they are seeing these shortcomings and they're trying to work with them. And so he's going to just have to continue to be patient. And the one thing, at least outwardly, that we're seeing is he is extremely, extremely mature in this perspective. Maybe it's because his dad's a coach. Maybe at home he is bitching and moaning every second. Who knows? But he's been mature about it. And you go a long way in this league by being mature and being a good guy. Brad Hunt's going to play for a long time in this league because of that. Nate Prosser forged a freaking 12-year career because of it. Ryan Donato, with his talent, is going to play a long time in this league because of him just biding his time here. So, I get it's frustrating for fans, but this is just one of those things. We saw with Zucker. Zucker was in the minors. He was in the fourth line, and it took a while. Heck, Mikko Koivu, the all-time leading scorer in Minnesota Wild history, his first year in the NHL, played with Derek Bugard on the left and either Kyle Wanvig or Matt Foy on the right. This is part of the process to kind of move up. Eventually, hopefully, he gets his opportunity if they make a couple moves and takes advantage of that. And then it'll be up to him once he is elevated.
From Rhett on Twitter.
But just real quick, what I do like about Ryan is that he knows he's not a fourth line left wing, but he goes there and he's playing a fourth line role. Like, he's scoring goals, but this guy is physical now. He's skating hard. He's intense. Actually, I shouldn't even say now. I've seen this all year from him. I saw it last year when he got here as well. So I do agree with the fans that he deserves more ice time, but there is a reason these coaches are doing this. This isn't just because they hate him. They believe that his weaknesses are nullified when he plays against top defenders, and they're trying to work with him in that situation. So
From Rhett, any chance of Kakkonen getting some games the rest of the way?
yeah, I think the fact that they're 3 points out of a playoff spot makes it a little tougher right now. If they fell apart or if they fall apart, I think that there is definitely a chance. They've talked about that internally. They have the roster room. They have 3 call-ups that they can bring up. Right now, Mayhew is papered, so that's why Louis Belpedio went down, by the way. If you remember last year, the Wild put themselves in a little bit of a pickle because they papered both all 3 of Donato, Greenway, and Cunnin at the deadline, so they could be AHL playoff eligible. And then they only had 1 call-up the rest of the way, non-injury related, and they didn't want to pull that trigger for a while, and finally they did. Where now what they did is they sent Louis Belpedio down. They actually have 6D going, at least as of now, going on this road trip, which is a little dangerous on a back-to-back. Because what if somebody gets sick or pulls up lame or whatever? But they're doing that because they don't want to waste any more roster spots because you only get 4 post call-up deadlines. So, but they've left themselves the ability to call up Kakkonen if they want. The thing is that Iowa's in a big-time playoff race as well. They have a chance to go win a Calder Cup. They just took their best scorer off their lineup, along with Sam Anis, but they just brought up Jerry Mayhew, although what does Iowa do yesterday? And they win another game. And it looks like Sokolov has been elevated, so this is his opportunity with Mayhew gone. I know that Wild fans only care about the Minnesota Wild, and I get that, but to take a minor league player, put him in the middle of a playoff race, and then if he struggles, now you have players in the room blaming him. He might be blaming himself mentally that, I just came here and helped destroy this team. They are going to have to. I think it would have to be a lot less pressure for them to use him as a guinea pig and bring him up. I think they would have to lose some games, so that means they're probably going to go with Dubnyk and Stalock for the little while. This is just my conjecture, but also because it would be unfair to all those players in Iowa. Even though Matt Robson's a good goalie as well, it would be unfair to take a team that is got a chance to win a championship and just pull their goalie off their lineup for a couple weeks. He's getting good development down there. Maybe eventually we see him here if the things fizzle, but right now maybe it changes tomorrow after the way that Dubnyk and Stalock have played the last couple, but right now I just think that most likely the Wild will be a little more patient and just let Kakkonen play down there. And by the way, what's really cool is the Wild are in San Jose next Thursday. The Iowa Wild play the San Jose Barracuda on Wednesday night.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to probably do a podcast with somebody pretty cool on the game day next Wednesday in San Jose, and then I'm going to go to that game that night and grab an Iowa feature.
Cool. Reminder, March 11th and 25th, 7 p.m., we're doing our live show at tinshedmn.com, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Get there early if you want to sit anywhere close to the stage. We had a huge crowd last time we did a show. tinshedmn.com is the website. They buy one, get one free pizzas every Monday. You can order online. You can go to the website and find out all the deals they have and the coupons they have. Kids eat free all day Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's kids 10 and under. You can check out their menu, and they have just TVs everywhere, games everywhere. It's just a blast. Great place to hang out, tinshedmn.com. From Bill, our friend, with the recent dad's trip, you mentioned that the Minnesota Wild pay the accommodations for travel. It's always first class. How many other teams do this? Can't see Carolina or Columbus spending that kind of money on non-player travel.
Carolina just had a mother's trip during that same time, and Columbus has absolutely done it. Most of these teams are first class. The only team that never did it when Lou was the GM was the New Jersey Devils at the time, and that's just kind of Lou being Lou. But I think the Islanders have since done it. So I could be wrong on that. Last week was an interesting week for Mrs. Stahl, Eric Stahl. She had 2 mother's trips, and then Dad had a father's trip with the Wild.
Wow.
And Dad, I was talking to Henry, and Henry guessed that this was like 20 father-son trips that he's been on in his life.
Wow.
But Mom, Linda Stahl, had in the same week a Carolina Hurricanes mother-son trip and then a New York Rangers mother-son trip. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool. From our friend Tony Schmidt, at what point do they finally send Greenway back down to Iowa to develop?
Well, he's only got 9 or 8 games until waivers, so it would have to be before that. Otherwise, then they're never doing it again.
Right. Let's see. I want to find a question that we haven't addressed yet.
There's a good waiver calculator, by the way, on capfriendly.com that all Wild fans, that all NHL fans could look, and you could always find out the waiver thresholds, and it's completely accurate on all these players. Like, I think a lot of fans don't get waivers. Somebody tweeted me during the game, like, when are they going to send Dumba down to the minors to get his head on straight? I'm like, what? Do I really have to explain you waivers for Matt Dumba? Matt Dumba has needed waivers for like 4 years, 3 years. Like, so you can go on capfriendly.com, type in Greenway, and you'll see his waiver clock tick. And last time I looked, it was 10, so it must be around 9 or 8 right now.
Okay.
Because what Tony Schmidt just asked, I was thinking the same thing.
From Ralph Wiggum, is the goalie of the future in the organization, or will Guerin have to go look for trades or free agency?
That's one reason why the other person probably asked, are we going to see Kähkönen? I mean, I do think that the Wild need to figure out if Kähkönen is the goalie of the future. I think that he's showing every ability so far this year that he is. But the question is, can he be the goalie next year? And if you think that he's not, then maybe you have to go out and get a goalie this summer.
From Dan, what is it like to cover a trade deadline that consists of a lot of smoke but no fires? Is it tough to deal with all the phone calls, texts, and stress resulting in no stories to break, or is it useful information finding seeds that maybe have been planted for summer deals?
No, I mean, it's a lot harder covering the trade deadline than it used to be, just because with text, these agents and GMs are all busy, so it's very hard that day to get people to get you useful information in time for you to actually use it, and so that's what makes it tough. But I enjoy that stuff. It's funny. I love the breaking of news, and I love reporting and things like that. But I also love the next day when you just know that for the next 6 weeks you're essentially vegging. You don't have to because I'll say, I mean, and I think people that know me and read me could probably sense this. But I don't sleep very well the last 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline because there's never a time where at night I turn off my ringer. So everybody gets notifications and during the middle of the night. So every time your phone buzzes, you're just reaching over to just look and make sure nobody was traded. And we see it. I mean, trades can happen at any time. I was I remember at the draft in Los Angeles once, Dustin Byfuglien was traded at like 1 a.m. Pacific time. We were in Nashville once at like midnight, and David Perron was traded from I think it was David Perron was traded to Anaheim. The other night, Edmonton and Detroit made a trade after midnight. As we saw at 8 p.m. or so a couple of weeks ago, Jason Zucker was traded. So it is a little tough, but I do love trying to ascertain what stuff is going on behind the scenes, and the Parise stuff. I mean, part of me is like, part of me is bummed that we put out this story and then the trade doesn't happen. But the other part of me is proud that I was all over it. I mean, we all at The Athletic had that. I mean, that slug was sitting in our system on Saturday because I just trusted that what I was sensing, and a lot of it was reporter intuition. Things I was seeing in Edmonton, the cloak and dagger. At one point, Billy Guerin pulled Zach Parise into the trainer's room at the morning after practice on Thursday, and so right away you're just like, why is the GM pulling Zach Parise into there? And so that's when you start digging, and so that's the cool part of this job is being a reporter.
Let's wrap the show up with a good question that I think kind of will. Oh, and now I got to find it. It disappeared on me.
Probably blocked him.
I know I had a really good question, and I can't find it now. Okay, we're going to do it a different way to wrap up the show. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, I found it. From Mike Orlando. This is going to wrap up the show. Once again, please subscribe to all the shows at TalkNorth.com. Or subscribe to this show specifically if you're just a hockey fan. Check out Talk North Pod on Twitter, and check out the new TalkNorth.com for all of our shows and our archive shows. Some shows like Roy, they're just great storytelling. You might want to go back and find some old stories. We appreciate everybody who's listened to the network, and we will be back next week with more of Russo. From Mike Orlando, we'll wrap the show up with this topic. Is it true the Wild pursued the Hurricanes' emergency goaltender at the deadline, seeking to make him the highest-paid Zamboni driver in the league? It would have provided depth and much-needed leadership in a clearly fragmented Wild garage. That was a great story.
Yeah, Stalock even joked yesterday at the morning skate that he's like he just thanked God that he wasn't traded at the deadline in Minnesota. So I mean, Stalock's got a sense of humor. Doobie loved. I mean, that's the cool thing about this sport too, is that all the players were talking about in the Wild locker room the other day. Like Doobie got a kick out of it. And that story is still one of the great stories. I mean, Hockey Night in Canada, or freaking Leafs diehard that works for the Marlies, goes in and wins them a game in the playoff race and becomes the goalie of record against the guys that he knows that the next day he was going to be on the ice with. I mean, it's just a crazy, crazy story. So, of course, one of the best PR stories in the NHL in years, they're going to end probably in the GM's meetings next week in Boca Raton. So,
are they?
Well, I mean, I think that, it's a great story because he won, but he gave up 2 goals on 2 shots. If, Carolina's in the cutthroat playoff race, and then you're taking a guy that theoretically, I mean, thank God I respect Ayers, because the other thing is, like, he is somebody that technically has a relationship with all these guys, especially Freddie. And so you're just glad that he wasn't essentially throwing the game or biased in the middle of a playoff race. So what if this happened in game 81 or 82? So the league is going to try to come up with something. I don't know how they're going to do it. There's no easy answers. The one thing that the league and has been talked about for a number of years now is having sort of a bullpen catcher. I think I've told the story before where I went oh God, who was the pitcher that played for the Marlins, but also for the Twins, and wound up in Los Angeles as well.
I'm blank. What's his defining characteristic? Why do you remember?
Right-handed pitcher. Well, no. So I went with him in the bullpen
Pelfrey?
catcher. Not Pelfrey. I know Pelfrey well though. Florida Marlins pitcher. God, who was it? I'll think of it. And then he played for the Twins, signed a big deal. Then they got rid of him.
Ricky Nolasco.
Yeah, so Nolasco. I've told this story before where I didn't know Nolasco. And Craig Minervini, the Marlins and the Panthers announcer, is a buddy of mine. So I used to fly to, late in the summer, I would go and on a Marlins trip with Minervini, and then we would go to Atlantic City whenever he was in Philadelphia or New York or something like that. So one day he's like, hey, we got an off day tomorrow. Fly to New York. Will come with me to the Marlin game at Citi Field, and then you'll drive me down to Atlantic City, and we'll go gamble for a couple of days. You can fly back from Philly. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So then I'm flying to New York, and he texts me. He goes, hey, tonight's starting pitcher, Ricky Nolasco, is going to come with us because, they're off for 5 days after a game, and they have an off day. So Ricky Nolasco and the bullpen catcher get into the back of my Chevy Malibu with Minervini, and we drive from New York City down to Atlantic City. And so, I mean, it was great listening to this bullpen catcher. This bullpen catcher for the Marlins was like a teacher at an elementary school in Miami. He'd been he might still be the bullpen catcher for a long time. And it was just interesting listening to all his stories about what it's like. I mean, he's basically a big league ball player, right? The only difference is that he can't get in a game. Where I think the NHL is going to try to have, some sort of go that route where you have a somebody that's essentially employed by each team that makes a nominal salary that probably doesn't go against the salary cap, that travels, practices, and all that stuff in case of these situations where then if all of a sudden somebody gets hurt, he's the one that suits up, for that team. So it'll be interesting if it ever gets to that point.
Absolutely. Ricky Nolasco.
Yep.
Well known as the guy who during his he was a big free agent signing when the Twins signed him. And his opening press conference, he said, I'd like to thank the city of Minnesota.
I've heard that. I can't tell you how many concerts I've gone to XL Energy Center and like, hey, Minneapolis. All right, no.
Not quite.
Not quite. But Nolasco is really a great guy to hang out with that weekend. It was really generous, too. We went to dinner that first night in Atlantic City, and he picked up the tab. But it was an awkward first 10, 15 minutes in the car because, one, I didn't know him, but here's the thing. He was starting that day. And I'm not kidding you, Freddie Gonzalez was the manager of the Marlins at the time, pulled him with, like, runners on first and second with, like, I mean, I could be getting the facts a little wrong. Runners on first and second with, like, 2 outs in the, like, 5th, pulls him. So he comes out, and he is showing right away that he is ticked.
Yep.
And then the reliever came in and just they gave up like 8, and he got the loss. And so now you could just see as he's walking to my car with his bag and that he's just pissed off. And he gets in the back seat of my Chevy Malibu, and I'm driving, and I don't know this guy. I don't even know if I should introduce myself. Like, hi, I'm not your Uber driver. I'm actually going to be hanging with you for the next 2-3 days. And I'm not saying a word in the first, 10 minutes as we're getting on, the Verrazano Bridge. And then finally, he started chatting away. So,
You know what would ease situations like that?
What?
If in the back seat of your Chevy Malibu or whatever you're driving these days, you had a nice little foot massager.
Yes, I know, exactly. Just you brought up Mike Pelfrey. I've told you the Pelfrey story too, right? So Pelfrey was friends with Paul Fletcher, really good friends with him. And so I became friends with Pelfrey when he was playing here for the Twins. And my brother was the biggest Big Pelf fan when he played for the New York Mets, gigantic, okay? And so my brother was coming to Minnesota to visit me 5 years ago or something with my mother and his firstborn. So this had to be about 5 years ago because his secondborn wasn't born yet. And I don't think. And then his wife, Jamie. And so we're going to Crave at St. Louis Park. And That's
where I had lunch with Tom Thibodeau. That was the last time I was there.
And I had told Pelfrey 3 or 4 times, my brother is a huge fan of yours. If he's ever comes to Minnesota, would you be cool meeting him? And so Paul Fletcher or I texted Pelfrey this one day that we're going to Crave and said, because he lived in those apartments right by St. Louis Park's what is that called? West End. Those those apartments right there. I'm like, hey, are you home? Would you be willing to come to Crave real quick? And so all of a sudden Pelfrey just shows up and surprises my brother.
He's about 6'9".
Yes, and my brother looks up and his mouth just dropped, and he's just he's holding his son. And his son looks up at this giant guy, and Pelfrey just extends his hand. And it's hi, Mike Pelfrey. And my brother's like, what the? It was really funny. Good guy, that Mike Pelfrey.
A good guy, goofy, but a nice guy to have.
And
around.
He was slow on the mound, right? Remember
Very
that? He
slow.
was he's one of the reasons why didn't they want to put in the pitch
yes. Or electric shocks in the mound or something. Yes, he drove us all crazy. He was a good guy in the clubhouse. He could be a little painful to watch pitch.
Yeah, same thing. We were in Chicago once, and just Paul Fletcher happened to be there, and so Chad Graff, myself, Chad was working for the Pioneer Press at the time, and we went to dinner at Gallagher's or something, one of those steakhouses down by what's that one area of Chicago called? Rush Street. And so we went to dinner with it was Paul Fletcher, Pelfrey, Chad Graff, and me, and this is the first time I ever met him. And Pelfrey, same thing, picks up the tab. So the Sun Sentinel appreciated that. So, or not the Sun Sentinel, sorry, the Star Tribune.
All right, well, I think we've done enough baseball talk.
Yeah. It's baseball season.
It is baseball season. I can't wait. I'm
Yeah.
going out of spring training in a couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks, you're just going to be absolutely unbearable to be around. You're going to be so happy.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Always unbearably happy. That's what I always get accused of.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming